In a world ruled by women, warriors claim victory on the battlefield while captured men become prized spoils for the victors. With only one man surviving for every 9 women, males are pushed out of public life and confined to sheltered roles within the household. Those who hold power gather and hoard as many men as possible, while weaker families must share whatever few remain among sisters and neighbors. Chained and watched closely by their keepers, men carry immense value in this world, their bodies worth more than any woman's on the market. Faust, bound in heavy chains, curses the cruelty of this reversed world, while admitting that beauty still stirs something dangerous inside him. 2 years after inheriting his fiefdom, Faust climbs the palace stairs beside young Princess Valliere, dreading another anxious audience with the reigning queen. Valliere asks if Faust has prepared his thoughts, and he admits he is desperately trying not to think about what comes next at all. Officials press Faust von Polidoro to voice an opinion, but he insists he carries only his late mother's will and his ancestors' hopes forward. Queen Liesenlotte, calm and composed at 32, with 2 daughters, watches the exchange while Faust's composure begins to crack under sudden pressure. Gritting his teeth, Faust whispers through a clenched jaw that his aching body is betraying him, forcing himself to hold steady before the throne. Valliere notices his strain and worries that any misstep during a royal audience could end badly, then teasingly blames his tight outfit instead. Given leave to speak freely, Faust straightens himself while Valliere watches, curious what confession he is finally ready to make before her. He explains that reacting to a woman's bare skin would brand him a pervert, shaming his parents and turning his entire domain into a laughingstock. To guard everyone's honor, he reveals he is currently locked inside a metal chastity belt, restraining himself for the sake of propriety. Valliere, seated on her throne, reminds him that facing mere bandits requires no overwhelming force, unaware of the private torment tightening across his hips. As metal creaks beneath his coat, Valliere questions why her very first battle involves nothing grander than chasing down common bandits at all. Startled by his sudden posture, she snaps at him to stop swinging his belt around in plain view, mistaking his pain for indecency. Faust admits the situation is unbearable, insisting he cannot let his late mother's name be tarnished by whatever happens between his belt and his body. He shouts that Valliere will become a court laughingstock, since her sister Anastasia once repelled a Willendorf invasion during her own first battle. Desperate to buy time for his body to recover, Faust bows low, averts his eyes from the queen, and begs her to reconsider everything. Valliere insists she is used to such treatment already, but Faust urges her to raise her head, calling bandit hunting a noble duty worth pride. The queen warns Lord Polidoro to heed her words, repeating that defeating the bandit scourge remains a worthy service despite his sudden objection. She questions whether exterminating bandits seems beneath Valliere, her tone sharp as Faust grits his teeth against the pain building beneath his coat. Faust snaps that this has nothing to do with duty, his composure breaking as the pressure inside his restraint grows impossible to endure. Guards urge him to calm down before the queen, while Liesenlotte admits she values the Knight of Wrath's abilities more than he realizes. She recalls how Faust once rode out with his soldiers to aid her eldest daughter, Princess Anastasia, and turned the tide against Willendorf. During that war, Faust dueled the enemy commander himself, taking her head after cutting down 10 of her fiercest barbarian knights in battle. Liesenlotte swears she will never forget his service, insisting she never meant to mock the hero who once saved the entire nation. Still, she needs him to calm down and listen, acknowledging how deeply he cares for young Princess Valliere's safety and reputation. She refuses to reverse her decree, stating firmly that Valliere's first battle against bandits remains her final and unchangeable royal decision. Faust asks permission to leave the room, stating there is nothing left for Valliere's advisor to argue before the throne today. The queen grants his request, and Faust admits both his dignity and his body survived the tense audience, mostly intact. Walking away, Valliere thanks him for becoming her advisor, and Faust jokes he is glad she never inherited her mother's heavy chest. Valliere leaves with permission to spend freely from the treasury, unaware the queen's true thoughts had drifted somewhere else entirely. Alone, Liesenlotte admits she made a mistake, recalling how indifferent Faust once seemed when first appointed as Valliere's advisor years earlier. Handling a war hero with such a reputation proves difficult, especially one who feels sent to fight bandits as an insult. She insists the Knight of Wrath deserves respect, admitting her honest feelings never intended to belittle his accomplishments or his pride. Her decree exists only to secure Anastasia's smooth succession, since draining the throne's strength for Valliere now would prove reckless. Yet the warmth in his enraged expression reminded her painfully of her late husband's same gentle, passionate smile from years before. Watching him treat a powerless princess as an equal, Listenlot realizes his anger was real and regrets not choosing him for Anastasia instead. Astarte fumes that Polidoro's closeness to Valier endangers everyone, insisting the princess has grown obsessed with him since witnessing his wartime bravery. She warns that Valier's scattered supporters could never withstand Anastasia's veteran legion should any struggle break out between the two royal sisters. Anastasia's advisor, Duchess Astarte, third in line and a war comrade of Polidoro, warns Mercy would vanish should Valier ever cross them. Watching Valier cling to her only advisor, Astarte decides she must pull the two apart before their bond grows any deeper. The queen decrees that failing to defeat the bandits means Polidoro gets reassigned under Anastasia's command, and Valier reluctantly agrees to the terms. Alone in her room, Valier despairs, calling herself nothing but her sister's spare heir, now facing the loss of her only advisor too. She remembers finding Faust first, admitting that as someone mediocre, she should have expected this outcome from the very beginning. 2 years earlier, a 12-year-old Valier had declared to 19-year-old Polidoro that he would become her advisor, only for him to refuse flatly. Desperate, she offered to arrange an audience with her mother, the queen, then clumsily added that she also had plenty of money to spare. Faust teased that she could offer him anything else, then grinned and told her she could choose wherever she wanted him stationed. Instead, Valier praised his fighting prowess, joking he'd surely win any sword tournament. Then bluntly asked how many enemy heads he had taken. He admitted men could never officially join such tournaments, so she cheerfully proposed they get along as two people who could never be first. Faust accepted, swearing loyalty to her that day, while grown Valier now vows she won't give up on him no matter what happens. Faust reflected on his assignment, admitting he expected to return home, but instead got dragged into a massive invasion and war soon after. He was named advisor to the second princess, forced to endure painful formalities and uncomfortable audiences with the queen at court. Two court ladies sipped tea, mocking Faust from a distance, calling him repulsive and pointing out his unusual muscular build in disgust. Faust ignored their insults toward the flowers, silently noting that soft, delicate men were the ones truly admired in this world. The ladies continued, declaring that his large frame made him an eyesore, since petite and fragile boys were considered attractive here. Faust endured constant contradictions at court, one moment facing exposed bodies, the next enduring insults, calling the entire palace senseless. A noblewoman sneered that he was likely an abandoned barbarian child, while Faust simply wished to return home to Polidoro domain. He recalled his mother, the last ruler of Polidoro, a strange woman who rejected every relative, pushing her to remarry after his father died young. Born with memories of his past life, Faust assumed his mother's strict education and governance, and swordplay was simply normal for an heir. He studied deep into the night and trained relentlessly, accepting the harsh routine as a way to bond with his distant new mother. 8A15. On his first expedition, he asked Squire Helga about the strange gender norms, learning male knights were nearly unheard of. His mother's body grew weaker with time, though she hid her condition, knowing deep down that her remaining years were limited. Even in pouring rain, she forced herself from her sick, determined to teach her son how to survive in this harsh world. At 20, her condition worsened suddenly, almost as though she sensed she had nothing left to pass down to her son. She passed away at 35, and only then did Faust truly understand the woman who had raised and shaped him. She loved him without condition, sacrificing her own life so that he could grow strong enough to live his fully. Years later, Faust warned the ladies that insulting his mother or the people of Polidoro would not be tolerated in his presence. One woman shrieked, calling him a barbarian and threatening consequences, while the other invoked their ties to Duchess Astarte for protection. Faust remained unmoved, telling them their connections meant nothing, and warning the second woman that she would be next. Chaos erupted as Faust grabbed one woman by the hair, and a royal knight arrived just as their screams echoed through the hall. Faust struck Georgian down with a hard blow, leaving Duchess Astarte to appear amid falling petals, greeting him with mock politeness despite her sour mood. Astarte, third in line to the throne and trusted by nobles and commoners alike, demanded an explanation for the boys working under her orders. The two frightened attendants claimed innocence, insisting Faust attacked them without cause. While Astarte studied the scene with visible suspicion, they accused him of being a barbarian picked up from enemy territory, prompting Astarte to ask if their claim about his origins held truth. Cornered, the women admitted they targeted Faust simply because he served the second princess faction, exposing their true petty motive. Astarte, known across the country as a ruthless war goddess, struck the offenders down without hesitation, showing no mercy toward fools. She apologized to Faust for the disrespect shown by her subordinates, offering her punishment of them as a gesture of amends. Despite rivalry between the first and second princess factions, Faust and Astarte's friendship, forged through shared battles, remained unaffected by politics. Their factions differed greatly in strength and numbers, yet Astarte insisted their personal bond stood apart from the usual court rivalry. Astarte complimented his appearance with characteristic bluntness, admitting she genuinely liked his warrior spirit despite a few odd quirks. She grabbed his backside without warning, remarking that it felt firmer since their last meeting, startling him with her casual boldness. Faust protested that touching him so freely bordered on harassment, though Astarte brushed off the accusation, insisting she had reformed already. He argued that her actions counted as harassment regardless of how many witnesses stood nearby, refusing to let her behavior slide. She praised the softness of his figure, jokingly declaring herself an ass connoisseur, while Faust stood exasperated at her persistence. When she suggested he give himself to her already, Faust replied he intended to save himself for a future wife. Astarte teased that merging their territories through a child worried her, then abruptly declared she would make him her husband instead. Faust laughed off the proposal, noting it sounded like more than mere companionship, so she offered to let their child inherit his land instead. He privately reasoned that becoming her lover rather than her husband would let him keep ruling Polydoro without losing it to the Astarte family. They agreed the arrangement suited them both, since Faust admitted his lingering virginity, believing no woman could match his knowledge or stamina. Astarte pressed close, asking him to be her first, insisting she would pay for the privilege rather than be paid herself. Faust admitted to himself that he genuinely fancied Astarte, struggling to hold back before promising his late mother he would bring their future child to her grave. A new voice interrupted them sharply, demanding to know what Astarte thought she was doing, catching both Faust and Astarte off guard entirely. The stranger was Princess Anastasia, first in line to the throne, a brilliant strategist who once defeated 1,000 enemies with only 500 troops alongside Astarte and Faust. Astarte casually explained they were simply discussing the details of Faust becoming her lover, provoking immediate outrage from the furious princess. Astarte added that Faust seemed far from opposed to the idea, which only made Anastasia declare she would never allow such an arrangement. Anastasia insisted the royal family would never permit her house to intertwine with Polydoro, since Faust belonged to a rival political faction entirely. Astarte mocked the reasoning, pointing out that the second princess faction barely mattered, then pushed Faust to reject Anastasia's feelings outright too. Anastasia later confronted Faust directly, urging him to abandon his post as advisor and instead come serve under her authority. Faust refused firmly, reasoning that the second princess's faction had no real future, especially after hearing Astarte's blunt assessment already. Even so, he explained his preference to remain loyal to Princess Valliere, insisting he simply followed his own heart's honest wishes. Anastasia reflected quietly on how Faust treated her as a person rather than royalty, reminding her warmly of her late father's kindness. Faust wondered if his rejection had disappointed her, but Anastasia called it a wonderful answer, treasuring it as her first perfect love. She told him to keep serving Valliere for now, but asked him to report back after his coming expedition against the bandits. Anastasia vowed that once she became queen, she would force Faust into becoming her husband no matter what obstacles stood between them. Astarte warned that marrying into royalty would strip Polydoro's independence entirely, absorbing his cherished domains straight into the crown's own lands. Astarte added that taking away what he valued most would leave no genuine place for Anastasia inside his heart at all. She clarified that Faust was a man devoted to his ancestral lands, willing to do anything necessary in order to protect them. Astarte proposed a compromise instead, suggesting they simply share Faust between them, letting one child inherit the Polydoro territory eventually. Anastasia accused Astarte of secretly wanting Faust for herself too, sparking a heated exchange about hidden desires between the two women. The argument escalated further, with accusations of wanting to overpower him flying back and forth, while Anastasia insisted she never wished to sully Faust. Anastasia pressed her forehead in frustration, admitting she wished not to burden Faust with this conflict right before Valliere's first military campaign. The two rivals settled into agreement, deciding they would wait patiently until the second princess wrapped up her ongoing battle first. They plotted further, promising to protect his territory in exchange for turning him into their shared lover through such an arrangement. Ingrid checks a secured paper and at once remembers an important task requiring attention urgent. She reviews spending petition documents for 15 people and prepares for upcoming meeting later, She comes to at a huge manor and notices its overwhelming size from outside gate. Servant member welcomes Ingrid properly and notifies Faust is waiting inside the mansion already. Staff talk about noble Polidoro's reputation as celebrity bard songs spread throughout mansion circles widely. Ingrid builds power by drawing on contacts with Polidoro's merchant guild network and positions herself as a key broker in aristocratic dealings. Faust encounters Ingrid once past the extended time, displaying familiarity while Ingrid quietly evaluates his growing status and potential value. Faust considers on his present standing and aspiration, noting his limited standing while calculating how to rise within Ingrid Trading Company. Ingrid deals with Faust's gear appeals such as enchanted gear modifications and custom adjustments for his combat needs carefully. Faust and Ingrid debate private embarrassment and practical issues while Ingrid maintains composure and continues managing his operational support. Ingrid discusses Faust's odd gear appeals and asks his physical condition during preparations carefully. Faust considers political promotion while Ingrid assesses possibilities and his rising influence carefully strategically. Faust thinks on nobility stress and Lady Astarte while developing protective social strategy carefully. Ingrid persists adjusting equipment while Faust grumbles about embarrassment and special modifications issues persistently. Faust and Ingrid talk about noble relationships and planned union politics throughout frontier society matters. Ingrid assesses political strain around ruler Polidoro while traders and nobles speculate on his influence and potential instability. Royal court talk asks whether the princess or monarch influenced rewards tied to Polidoro, while fear grows over his uncontrollable reputation. A noble worries about court discipline if Polidoro's circumstance is mismanaged, while Astarte's demeanor creates fear across political factions. Ingrid thinks on preventing greed and keeping horseshed influence, choosing cautious growth over risky ambition within merchant operations. Faust notices Ingrid's distraction while she wrestles with obsessive feelings about preserving restore and securing long-term political advantage. Ingrid jokes with Faust about stopping concealment of his embarrassing reaction during confidential talk moment closely. Faust rests calmly while Ingrid stands behind as he interviews wedding delay and political demands. Ingrid discusses noble pressures. Faust considers defense strategies while observing Astarte's sway on politics closely. Faust reclines while Ingrid manages equipment alterations and they debate Princess Valiel and palace matters. Ingrid thinks on vendors' aristocrats' tensions while Faust words on alliances and relationship expectations shifting. Ingrid discusses choosing attractive noblewoman tied to Polidoro power within minor noble families politically. Aristocrats argue regal sway, noting Duchess Astarte's seriousness and questioning loyalty of princess guards. Ingrid assesses aristocratic worries as discussions change towards controversial brothel funding requests in documents carefully. Faust checks official appeals while authorities demand explanation regarding mansion operations and financial allocations carefully. Sabine arrives as tensions climb while Ingrid manages inquiries and assesses political private implications carefully within system. Sabine is new as second Princess Regal Protection Captain, respected for brutal strength and discipline. The court soldiers are evaluated and identified to be inexperienced, concerned with standing and basic capability. Talk shifts to Princess Valiel's approaching fight, and requests for funding are firmly rejected. Ingrid argues with officers over funding constraints while political and bureaucratic tensions escalate inside the palace. Youthful women have difficulty with hopelessness over firm expectations, questioning their purpose and limited future prospects overall. Ingrid proposes choosing attractive lords while discussing second and third daughters within aristocracy politically. Warriors quarrel about common folk and noble hopes while Ingrid evaluates political strategy discussion carefully. Ingrid checks court financing dispute while evaluating soldiers' loyalty and princess involvement carefully issues. Ingrid argues with authorities over finances distribution while managing court administrative pressure intensifies ongoing. Zabadine guides court watch evaluation while discussing self-control hierarchy and strict military expectation system. Ingrid responds in surprise as Faust's harsh words escalate, causing tension and emotional strain during their confrontation. Faust shows irritation while Ingrid hides her face, both overcome by strain over the upcoming first battle situation. Ingrid thinks on rider drills, regal expectations, and comparisons with others, feeling pressure about her own abilities. Open disorder erupts as soldiers and residents clash, while Ingrid becomes more unstable, struggling with responsibility and identity crisis. Ingrid becomes alarmed under stress, worried about defeat in battle and consequences involving Faust, leading to emotional breakdown and desperation. A officer pushes partners to endure their first battle together, while a nervous recruit reveals inexperience and fear. Troops say they have no place else to go and ready for combat under orders. Ingrid watches rough truth of noble soldiers reflecting on pressure and fear of being discarded. Planner cautions about initial fight risks referencing bandit threats and unstable battlefield conditions ahead. Accounts of warrior Faust travel within troops, shaping morale expectations for survival and leadership. Ingrid recalls famed warrior Faust, describing peerless strength and overwhelming battlefield presence during war stories. Faust overcomes hostile officer and rushes through battlefield, inspiring knights following behind victoriously onward. Aunt's past stating identities contest begins between rivals under watchful noble crowd. Tension rises intensely now. Ingrid clarifies mightiest warrior supporting first battle while urging training instead of fear directly firmly. Faust mentions to Ingrid about noble Polidoro, causing her to review needs and strategy carefully now. Ingrid's negotiated debate about using ruler Polidoro intensifies into awkward misunderstanding about expectations and strategy planning. Sabine is hurt and away, while Faust is told about her state and the importance of her role in battle. Ingrid promises assist and pledges to secure Sabine's return before meeting Faust. While tensions around scheduling rise, Faust responds calmly while learning about Sabine's state and approaching first battle responsibilities, staying observant. Ingrid voices remorse over schedule and past opportunity to meet Valiel. Faust keeps supply planning under stress. Court soldiers reach at venue. Staff welcomes them, directing seating toward corner tables respectfully inside. Troops meet for farewell off beverages, sharing last keg, preparing for upcoming first battle mission together. Courier reports bad word. Valiel planned brothel visit cancelled, leaving group disappointed, and tense atmosphere remains. Sentinels quarrel forcefully about inexperienced fighters entering battle, questioning palace finances and leadership decisions openly heatedly. Officer strictly refuses brothel trip plans, enforcing strict rules and criticizing irresponsible behavior firmly decisively. Regal sentinels mock each other at an hostelry, mocking virgin status and authority while gathering for service. Fighters share last ale ahead of battle, joking loudly while questioning their roles and comparing experiences together. Valiel receives report about cancelled brothel call involving noble Polidoro, creating disappointment among the group present. Disputes escalate as riders ridicule each other over virginity demands, authority, and preparation for battle deployment. Hannah confronts noble Polidoro about warrior rank and regulations. Strict riders at tavern debate ruler Polidoro while mocking rank, strength, and virgin status. Claims troops beverage prior to fight, arguing over future wife of Lord Polidoro competitively heatedly. Escalating. Valiel receives cancelled brothel word, causing dismay within knights and rising tension internally. Outwardly warriors quarrel, passionately growing rivalry and threatening violence over Polidoro marriage claim. Immediately chaos. Valiel steps in, ordering riders to stop clash and return discipline before deployment firmly, decisively. Regal riders talk about noble Polidoro and urgent intervention to prevent reckless imitation among comrades. Valiel suggests instant trip to ruler Polidoro, shocking knights with impulsive strategy rapidly escalating. Riders discuss aim strategies, inner advancement goals within chaotic drinking gathering before battle preparation. Party announces plan to contend for status. Unity breaks into rivalry, escalating tensions emerge. Valiel thinks on earlier absence and commands toward royal palace determination. Future confrontation begins amid rising internal court conflict. Valiella considers on strained connection with her elder sister while readying for night deployment and hearing doubts about Lord Polidoroval. Elziel is called by her sibling and steps into the mansion, confused about sudden request for discussion and inspection. Within the room, Valiel faces critique and counsel concerning her upcoming first battle and unstable information reliability. Her sibling states Warfield doubt, instructing that plans can change, and enemies may appear stronger than expected. Valiel gets set to advance. Valiel thinks on Warfield doubt while remembering sister's guidance about Faust's first battle experience carefully. Valiel goes into a state following summons, uncertain by sister's sudden request for private discussion. Seriously now. Sibling cautions Valiel about Warfield doubt and unreliable information before first deployment preparation carefully planned. She clarifies battlefront disorder, where enemies appear tougher and plans constantly change unexpectedly without warning. Sibling instructs Valiel to psychologically ready for initial battle, using experience as guidance, seriously prepared. Valiel listens to her sister caution about unsure battlefront choices and outcomes carefully. Valiel steps into mansion as her sibling states risks before upcoming first battle seriously. Valiel considers counsel while recalling beforehand missions and questions about survival internally calmly. Warriors gather at the court preparing for departure as Valiel joins formation. Seriously ready. Valiel guides forces onward towards mission destination with determination shaping future path forward. Valiel notices meeting soldiers at fortress preparing for departure toward frontier battlefield mission begins now. Fighters labor hauling large equipment while Zabine urges them forward through the march onward together. Valiel recollects warfield guidance as locals report bandit threats affecting nearby countryside region quickly arriving. Forces debate over large mail armor and first battle stress while officers try control discipline restored. Valiel commands closing journey through entrance toward battlefield with strong determination forward ahead now onward. Valiel guides forces onward while reminding fighters that battlefield outcomes are uncertain and preparation is essential. Valiel recovers for a moment during journey, questioned by soldier Zabine to recover before continuing toward frontline operations. She considers overcoming raiders readily, while fearing about Faust's safety and potential mission failure consequences ahead. Valiel thinks by himself, worried about her regal guard might be disbanded if mistakes occur during mission execution. Valiel moves through battlefront zone, receiving instability, focusing on protecting comrades while advancing into combat zone. Valiel stands beneath a huge oak reflecting that aristocrats and ordinary people hold no expectations for her future, feeling isolated, yet determined inside still. Her allies support her and she decides to defend them all while focusing on surviving the upcoming mission together, safely ready for battle. Despite uncertainty ahead now, during drills trap exercises the unit panics. Valiel is startled and teammates joke while continuing preparations for battle readiness continuing under strict military guidance. Border forces advance around hills while Faust observes new territory expansion calmly developing situation. Troops taste cooked Willendorf meat, reacting cheerfully to remarkably strong frontier provision supplies there. Faust travels with comrades while riders credit results and discuss Rex end campaign progress. Calmly Princess Valiel scolds troops for singing crude chants during march. In formation strictly observed noble rider woman rebukes Faust, limiting tunes and maintaining strict discipline rules. Seriously enforced Borken Sterlin leader. Helga cautions incoming soldiers, declaring no mercy against intruding domain forces here. Faust and guard fighters catch charges about harassment while passing Polydorus domain boundary line. Princess Valiel expresses regret to Faust once past mistake during strained marching. Inspection incident situation resolved. Helga displays newly recently added crossbows while ordering fighters to remain alert during training exercise. Helga surveys land and newsbow lethality while Faust evaluates defensive positioning carefully. Strategy scenes of raided hamlet. Faust watches destruction book scattered across burned rural settlement remains. Faust is weary while observer news bodies and worsening situation during investigation. Field assessment riders uncover savage result while Faust rides forward assessing enemy crossbow threat. Seriously analyze troops inspect ruin, dead village while ravens circle above empty structures and cages hanging nearby. Warrior woman stands next to fallen mount after battle with grim aftermath present visible tension. Faust comes to at ruined settlement where remaining troops account massacre and stolen supplies under tense suspicion. Faust interviews Hamlet woman while wounded recon confirms bodies scattered and attack severity increases. Concerned bandit raidwake shows inquiry about survivor identity while Faust introduces himself under scrutiny. Faust clarifies wound from crossbow bolt during rap while justifying actions and mission legitimacy. Concerned Faust came at the ruined settlement and paid attention as survivors describe shifting accounts of the raid. Helga and local observers argued whether the attackers were basic raiders or part of a larger coordinated force. Faust noted news growing from 30 outlaws into a civil conflict involving rival noble families. Princess Valiel questioned those alive, while studying the Bosel family's uprising had overran the village defenses completely. Faust established Caroline von Bosel connected command following attack incident. Faust studies accounts about incapable chief, first daughter, warning and possible enemy escape route strategy. Remaining troops explain unsuccessful defense strategy, gathering villagers inside residence before overwhelming enemy forces arrived earlier. Valiel says sorry to Faust following broken defensive, while he assesses next enemy strategic move carefully. News confirm Bosel household revolt grows, predicting escape toward asylum across border with soldiers plan. Faust concludes defense approach while Helga predicts hostile advance and escape routes carefully. Analysis plan Valiel and Helga assess opposing power, discussing news and shortage of immediate reinforcements available. Now Helga accounts Duchess Astarte will reach too delayed to support the defense operations. Overall situation Faust reviews troop lack and concludes chase of opposing forces is impossible now. Logically assessed Valiel fears setback and suggests keeping frontier until reinforcements arrive from capital. Strategic defense offensive plan. Faust decides to slow opposing push and gets ready defensive counter-strategy immediately for upcoming battle. Valiel argues control, asking Faust to reserve soldiers while balancing the cost of pursuit and casualties. Helga and Valiel assess the damaged army, noting incoming reinforcement and likely aid from the capital. Valiel calls for following in spite of failure, but Faust refuses, prioritizing survival and regrouping over pride and reputation. Faust concludes the state requires reserve, selecting to end advance, rethink approach to avoid avoidable deaths and stabilize command. Valier became frantic by himself, stunned by defeat rumors spreading through worried noble territory quickly. Now Valier walked brightly, choosing to enter convent after suddenly finding hopeful solution today alone. Valier became newcomer, giving personally to prayers, hoping Faust finds suitable bride eventually peacefully. Valier appeared at battlefront, fighters shouted loudly, bandits pushed aside amid confusion instantly everywhere. Faust judged state calmly while soldiers argued, seeing urgency of rising conflict together now. Valier reaches at the battlefront, where frantic forces plead for aid, expecting salvation from her forces immediately. Enemies defeat the troops while confusion grows. Soldiers insist she brought army and must intervene urgently now. Valier stands calmly within wounded forces, realizing responsibility, admitting internally she cannot help these people alone. Around hands and calls stress her. Contrast to her sister weakens her confidence under heavy expectation. Faust and officers control clash while challenging leadership decisions, forcing urgent discussion about nobles' delayed support. Valier comes to with troops as locals urgently ask for help versus surrounding bandits attack now. Fallback uncertainty expands while officers argue, insisting Valier brought forces and must intervene quickly now. Valier notices hurt troops and uncertainty herself, realizing she cannot protect everyone alone effectively now. Lords and residents claim steps comparing her to others while pressure overwhelms leadership decisions now. Valier prays for direction and determines to act. Although facing terror and uncertainty among allies now, Valier reaches next to Zabine as lords claim help while tension rises among soldiers quickly. Troops become alarmed as a noble woman strikes Valier, surprising all people gathered at battlefield camps suddenly. Valier shouts at Zabine, unable to understand the violent disorder happening ahead of her now. People cries in shock once past witnessing knight striking princess, despite rank and status allegedly. Uncertainty expands as fighters debate while leadership struggles to control escalating situation aftermath now. Valier confronts angry locals as claims advance over destroyed homes and dead bodies scattered across frontier ground. Zabine and Valier are faulted while enemy residents claim punishment, forcing the knights into defensive retreat. Valier is with words attacked by remaining troops who question her power while she fights to justify the battlefield outcome. Residents charge fighters of brutality, claiming those who resisted were executed as examples under harsh enforcement. The reality of revolt control is shown as past executions are referenced, showing fear-driven order in the region. Valier stands next to Faust as residents charge warriors while tensions escalate around them quickly. Zabine acts but aggressive warrior strikes Valier once more, causing panic among soldiers nearby instantly. Valier argues with residents charging riders while Faust watches rising conflict without intervention calmly. Troops meet as locals argue heroes while battlefield order struggles under pressure now heavily. Faust and Valier lead forces as residents reflect on fighters and resolve emerging today. Valier withstands abuse from locals while rallying riders as chaos erupts around battlefield front lines. Zabine and warriors respond as residents pause while cohesion forms among troops quickly now. Valier stands by himself but inspires helpers who elect to join her into battle. Now Valier guides gather, urging fighters forward as soldiers prepare charge against noble forces now. Faust coordinates closing push while soldiers unite following Valier and storm enemy lines now. Valier stands ahead of gathered militia as residents and riders gather under Lord Polydoro's tense command. Faust encourages Zabine to retreat warriors while locals accuse them of abandoning battlefield responsibilities. Now, Valier confronts Faust about accountability while challenging ruler Polydoro's approach and civilian suffering outcomes now. Faust calmly denies admiration, insisting soldiers are enough while nobles question his authority firmly now. Valier guides join forces onward as alliance forms against nobles and battlefield stabilizes. Finally now, Valier discusses boundary haste with leaders as local force prepares for rapid departure today now. Officers outline approach to confront hostile forces before border crossing within 3 days now. Local force girls mobilize together, declining withdrawal while declaring support for Valier leadership instantly now. We need more officers as troops continue insufficient for controlling 40 militia groups now. Valier asks command role while leaders debate who leads 40 militia troops forward now. Valier discusses frontier crisis while militia readies for pressing leaving under pressure now immediately. Leaders explain attack strategy while Faust reviews enemy movement and timing risks carefully. Now militia girls reject fallback and gather assist for Valier leadership despite fear rising now. Valier asks leaders while arguing over insufficient command for controlling gathered local forces tensions. Faust and Valier coordinate last movement as forces unite and get set battlefield charge together. Valier shouts at afraid locals, summoning them weaklings while defending knights under harsh accusation now. Faust watches clash calmly as Zabine argues with residents over fallback and accountability issues. Now, local force girls mobilize following Valier, selecting courage while fear spreads across battlefield ranks instantly now. Officers discuss frontier approach, calculating enemy movement while urgency forces rapid decision-making immediately now. Valier commands combined soldiers ahead as alliance forms and prepares decisive battlefield charge together. Now Valier negotiates last terms with Faust's pressure lessens while warriors request clear leadership orders. Valier rallies weary soldiers as they vow allegiance and demand continued command under her guidance. Riders unite behind Valier, confirming connection while refusing abandonment and embracing shared survival now. Faust ruins unresolved on closing plan while observing leadership dispute and awaiting confirmation calmly now. Faust assesses officers, quietly revealing limited motivation as troops react anxiously to uncertain leadership outcome. Faust reviews Valier's offer while admitting her logic and allowing temporary continuation of operations calmly now. Valier presents official reparation claim from court right while declaring intent to secure justice and resources. Faust accepts larger benefit talks while admitting dependency on Valier's political leverage and decisions. Faust commends Valier's authority outcomes while expressing pleasure with current progress and battlefield coordination. Valier responds to reproach of command while reflecting on duty and pressure from commanding forces. Faust agrees while Valier calls for reparation and playfully intentions extracting rewards from nobles calmly now. Valier rallies troops, drills travel chants while joking threats and chaotic enthusiasm erupt now together. Riders and militia promise devotion to Valier, favoring belonging while rejecting fear instantly now together. Faust reviews leaders while observing conflicts and displaying limited motivation for strategy silent judgment. Now, Valier and Faust coordinate joint forces readying conclusive battlefield advance against nobles together forward. Now Faust comments on Valier's offer while army strain mounts along the border situation now. Political discussions intensify as Faust assesses Valier's rough views on lords and civilian accountability. Now leaders discuss ethics of civilian losses, weighing local customs and authority expectations now. Faust admits turmoil about court account while Helga makes clear cultural differences across regions now. Faust and Helga acknowledge frontier standing while expecting greater casualties in upcoming conflicts now. Riesenlot supervises a start while troops ready gear for approaching campaign mobilization indoors preparation room. Astarte grumbles aloud following noticing operation preparations for mobilization are still incomplete status report. Astarte directions mustering of 2,100 men, emphasizing extensive preparation requirements for deployment logistics. Riesenlot discusses next day, leaving intentions while recognizing forces' readiness limitations and delays, strategic planning. Riesenlot boldly observes vendors and hands already organized, showing controlled frontier administration efficiency display. Astarte checks travel course to border concerned enemies may intercept forces during movement operations planning. Astarte commands deployment of 200 men while addressing past rider causing renewed conflict issue. Riesenlot asks Anastasia and aides discussing boundary push plan and potential timing delay strategy meeting. Caroline studies map noting wagon collapse holdups and potential raids across contested territories frontier situation. Leaders uncertainty opposing travel while Faust stabilizes front, preventing reinforcements and delaying strategy plans. Astarte assesses frontier advance dreading interception, while enemies threaten crossing if routes fail risk. Astarte directions mustering of 2,100 soldiers addressing X-Night Incident Disruption Response Plan. Risenlot meets with Anastasia and counselors discussing frontier movement timing delays, strategic coordination planning session. Caroline reviews chart noting wagon breakdowns and likely strikes across contested territories situation overview. Astarte answers angrily to critique, while others debate unrest and instability caused by reckless frontier incidents. Astarte backs firm boundary journey strategy while concerns rise about enemy interception and leadership risk. Risenlot interviews handling of noble daughters while accounts reveal misconduct cases and internal dissatisfaction. Authorities argue penalty and army response, while tension grows over reputational damage to royal family authority. Astarte assigns Valier's refuge to Risenlot, while dismissing worries and persisting confident strategic command. Astarte responds once past learning Anastasia's account about Valier's uncertain safety situation discussion continues tense. Astarte waves off noble critique stating rival talent ordinary while asserting strict frontier ideology confidently. Risenlot directions Valier put under protection, denying mediocrity among nobles and commoners alike principle. Fugitives journey requesting refuge in Willendorf as frontier instability spreads across borderlands region-wide. Wagon train keeps travel through ruined lands while political decisions reshape frontier order quietly shifting. Convoy advances through ruined ground as fugitives move wagons under strict orders. Urgent evacuation continues. Runaways terror arrest while heading to Willendorf seeking asylum across dangerous borderlands toward border safety. Drained refugees break down shortly as commanders question delays and discipline during march authority remains firm. Caroline advances ahead inspecting convoy while ordering carried on travel through nighttime maintaining control throughout route. Caroline reaches onward, escorting those alive towards Willendorf under observant military guidance towards safer refuge route. Caroline backs weary troops during nighttime march, while survivors struggle through mud and damaged wagons. Refugees dread seizure as they continue towards Willendorf, carrying wounded and fearing execution if caught. Caroline accuses personally for setbacks, while allies insist survival depends on continued movement forward. Risenlot commands self-control, recognizing lost soldiers and rejecting blame during strategic retreat discussions. Displaced people attain Willendorf boundary as command stabilizes order and prepares asylum procedures ahead under Caroline command authority firmly. Armored ruler Risenlot considers enduring operation while presenting presents and hostages to secure acceptance. Risenlot recalls Martina while proclaiming aim to advance again as noble bloodline spirit remains. Mourning chief considers on loss for daughter Martina lamenting loss and wretchedness endured silently. Caroline tends troops serving meal while stating defense of loyal subjects during hardship calmly. Officer Risenlot states care for followers and loyalty to Bosel's side, seeking success forward. Risenlot recollects success was throughout attained before retainers and knights betrayed her, leading to massacre of dissenters and priest execution afterward. Risenlot considers on mistake of uprising while citizens eat soup, reaffirming duty to protect surviving subjects, despite overwhelming loss, quietly resolve. Armored rider vows closing resistance, stating willingness to die atop enemy blood while accepting fate after devastating civil conflict ends resolve. Rider party gathers pressing dangerous battle mission seeking reward for injured soldiers' survival plan. Soldiers waver for a moment then agree to continue, despite danger, and begin marching forward together. Warrior captain rebukes junior soldier for missing discipline during march, while comrades protest loudly. Vice captain states losing one member prevents unit solidarity, causing inner silence among soldiers present. Chief quietly watches fighters as morale rises and unified march continues toward frontier ahead. Warrior unit gathers looking for hazardous battle plan promising salvation reward for injured soldiers collectively. Forces pause then agree to advance together beginning advance, despite dangerous conditions ahead forward. Vice captain scolds soldier for without order during journey, causing tension among unit members. Losing member dangers party cohesion, causing personal silence among remaining soldiers and hesitation spreads. Commander without words notices mounting morale as soldiers resume unified march toward frontier ahead now. Faust guides scouting towards remote hillsite chosen for risky forward encampment, march planning mission. Soldiers suffer loss talk causing hopelessness while command insists enemy border remains far and unreachable. Fighters sob and break down in distress during march as news spreads of supposed failure ahead. Hannah and other warriors question odd land formation while leadership documents long campaign timeline progress. Officer watches battlefront map recognizing unexpected engagement timing and extended campaign route across frontier territory. Faust checks gathered soldiers and locals while estimating total force size and confirming unit composition. Polidoro residents and watch members form up together, receiving notice as authority evaluates their readiness and identity. Settlement people joins units under coordinated command structure, including chief, while Faust notes total manpower available. Valier arrives in mail, observing circumstance closely while strain rises among assembled soldiers awaiting orders. Faust and Noble Polidoro talk about warfield formation while troops look toward enemy hill awaiting instructions from commander. Faust watches hostile realization and assesses abandoning initiative while assessing troop advantage carefully conditions. Leaders suggest surrendering advantage because opposing count exceed expectations across battlefield positioning assessment confirmed. Fighters express concern about defending Valier as spirit weakens under overwhelming pressure situation worsens. Observer news precise opposing composition, including infantry cavalry wagons and crossbows, accurately confirm tally. Officer verifies hostile resolve 122, including cavalry infantry wagons, counted precisely. Faust reports opposing understanding while separating forces and identifying Caroline's likely position with detached cavalry group. Valier takes first move arranging to disperse hostile forces while Faust prepares to pursue Caroline alone if needed. Helga is given duty over locals as leadership structure divides battlefield roles among allied groups. Faust commands guarding a princess while receiving distance of roles and delegates leadership responsibilities before moving out. Faust gets ready exit trusting supporters with assignment control, while firm resolve sets direction for upcoming engagement. Faust guides lone assault while hostile archers prepare ambush, and allied troops prepare coordinated ranged response. Opposing surveys misjudge solitary rider approach, while allies reposition forces and identify key targets across hillside battlefield. Helga sees Caroline standing as crossbow groups get set aim and command structure, identifies priority targets quickly. Valier gives closing structure to raid as bow weapons align on target, and tension rises among soldiers. Valier directs fire starting missile attack while squad executes coordinated attack against advancing enemy position. Faust advances ahead by himself while opposing forces prepare ambush along battlefield ahead quickly now. Hostile riders strikes Faust standing, but he endures impact and continues fighting onward strongly. Faust responds to attacking mounted fighters slashing through opposing formation as chaos spreads across fields swiftly. Hostile mount crashes with target causing abrupt disruption among allied troops during charge instantly. Faust secures success as opposing leader falls and warfield momentum shifts toward allies. Now, hostile fighters encircle Faust, believing he is only one man, attempting organized attack to overwhelm him completely on battlefield. Now, immediately. Enemies jeer Faust, blaming him of killing many and summoning him prisoner while preparing coordinated attack with crossbows aimed at him. Faust carves through hostile ranks as fighters rush him, breaking lines and causing chaos across battlefield with brutal precision swiftly now. Shooters close on Faust and fire planned barrage while commanders order troops to shoot without hesitation against charging enemy target now unleashed. Faust endures large violence as enemies attempt to encircle him, but he counters with powerful strike-breaking formation instantly turning tide. Faust notices falling apart opposing mounted troops split and prepares pursuit strategy while battlefield forces reorganize rapidly. Hostile authority believes triumph after Caroline's retreat, while commanders confirm pursuit route through terrain and villages. Georgine states role and power while opposing units react to unexpected presence and battlefield shift intensifies. Faust assesses hostile officer approach and acknowledges limited pursuit ability due to large opposing army presence. Opposing leader lauds retreat while secretly preparing pursuit through alternate route toward Polidoro territory advancing plans. Princess Watch discusses research textbook while instability builds about refuge as troops prepare and Faust moves toward battlefield front line ahead. Now, initial Princess Protection rallies over 1,000 troops declaring Willendorf campaign while Duke Astarte identity is revealed, and forces cheer loudly together. Residents fear believing desertion as enormous army approaches, while carriage moves quickly, and accusations spread fear across group immediately. Now here, Valier commits Faust encouraging him ahead, while troops fight across burning battlefield and she counts on his decisive leadership now onward. Faust advances through battlefront cutting enemies down as disorder expands and allies wish luck while momentum shifts toward victory now complete. Noble Polidoro scans warfield while a rider prepares for frontier conflict below scene unfolding. Feminine riders ride around rural land, escorting their lord through unsettled frontier lands together moving. Outlaws stop noble Polidoro, demanding yield while knights prepare immediate defense. Battle formation begins. Imprisoned boys held within pen as Polidoro reaches promising rescue and safety now secured. Polidoro stands once past fight, watching rescued young men while detainees realize defeat. Order fully restored. Helga welcomes Faust von Polidoro as rescued boys assemble safely following chaotic forest combat scene. Faust von Polidoro, Rider of Wrath, comes to in Borderland as locals recognize his authority immediately. Residents praise Faust while discussing his resolve, noticing dangers and stolen carriage during confusion spreading. Faust directions withdrawal guarding young men as he prepares to confront enemies alone in Forest Edge. Wary those alive fault themselves while Faust accepts accountability calming tensions following decisive brutal victory ending. Martina accuses personally for vulnerability, while Faust faces claims after dangerous forest carriage incident scene. Faust Rider of Wrath reaches self-identified villagers, react escort carriage forest path scene tension. Locals admiration Faust while discussing taken coach abandonment choices confusion spreads across forest road tension. Boy pushes others runaway Faust decides task remorse survivors guilt protection decision hardened stance. Young men meet in wagon hear incoming sound, sense danger rising tension before possible attack imminent. Faust von Polidoro controls himself bloodied but intent readying for incoming hostile ambush attack scene. Helga and locals become alarmed as coach halts pleading while Faust advances through forest pressure rising. Bowmen fire from cover as riders counterstrike defending wagon carrying rescued children through chaos battlefield. Children in coach settle calmly while riders secure perimeter preparing escape through forest path route. Faust fights in spite of wound-bloodied features revealing resolve as enemies retreat into distance beyond scene. Faust von Polidoro strikes during close fighting collapsing opposing line while escort mission continues through forest chaos. Hostile assault hits wagon as Faust blocks force protecting children while riders fall into confusion. Fight deepens with carriages overturned warriors counterattacking through dense forest clearing enemy ambush route. Faust confronts attacker straight while speaking to disguised adversary revealing self-mistrust and tension rising. Caroline commands surviving riders ahead expressing thanks while Faust reflects on heavy responsibility and ongoing conflict. Faust guides those alive through result of combat while nobles declare exile for Willendorf territory. Caroline attempts to stop penalty as Faust is punished, although facing protecting children and civilians. Faust fights mounted hostile troops in forest disorder while declaration of exile echoes across battlefield. Warriors ask for regret to Polidoro as survivors argue over responsibility and evacuation priorities. Faust refuses desertion decision, saying direction of fight by then lost while others question escape and survival. Faust thinks on living while Caroline backs remaining units during emotional farewell after mission collapse. Caroline inspires surviving riders as spirit steadies, and those alive accept Faust's protection role during transition. Warriors ride through forest signaling parting as Faust gets ready exit and accepts final duty shift. Faust announces expulsion while persisting onward alone accepting responsibility and abandoning former command structure. Faust advances to distance, thanking supporters as banishment begins and journey continues beyond Willendorf borders. Faust von Polidoro readies to confront enemies while Caroline pushes warriors to continue heading forward. Caroline encourages remaining troops as warriors ride forward through forest agreeing to responsibility after brutal confrontation ends. Faust guides fallback around forest path while escorting wagon toward border under increasing enemy pressure. Warriors observer ahead identifying waterway path as Faust studies map, planning faster escape strategy carefully. Faust announces arrival at frontier as those alive confirm refuge and task reaches completion zone secured. Faust von Polidoro is hurt once past fight while horse collapses and enemies retreat nearby scene. Warriors labor controlling horses as Faust is attacked during chaotic forest counterstrike against enemies' assault. Faust keeps battle, although facing hurt analyzing battlefield movement while preparing pursuit strategy across terrain carefully. Riders record stream location as Faust intentions faster escape route toward border region ahead quickly. Faust comes to at boundary with remaining troops confirming security after successful escape from Willendorf territory secured. Faust von Polidoro thanks his wounded Mount Catherine and remembers the fights they survived together while accepting the cost of the mission. Faust stands by himself once past banishment decision, remembering supporters who supported him and decides to continue forward. Faust retreats from chaotic battlefront while unseen call pushes him onward telling him to ignore pursuit and continue fleeing danger. Faust, hurt and weary, drives through agony with determination, swearing internally he will survive despite overwhelming pressure and continued pursuit. Faust reaches borderland camp where armored fighters assemble, silently preparing defenses while watching him arrive with cautious uncertainty, present tension. Caroline comes to looking for shelter in Willendorf, officially introducing herself while guards observe her presence and assess her intentions carefully now. Frontier soldiers of Willendorf stand boldly in ranks, acknowledging Caroline and addressing her request with formal authority and curiosity present. Sentinels question the unit, expressing doubt about solitary travelers while assessing whether this dame arrived alone or with support needed. Eyebrow intelligence moment protagonist Faust accounts information calmly while remaining cautious under scrutiny from surrounding border guards nearby. Now, boundary sentinels at once relax, collapsing into loud laughter together after tension eases, reacting to unexpected remarks and shared understanding scene. You who have lost devoted select fighters question deserving belonging without wealth men or gifts demanded by frontier authority system. I know you well, Caroline under night light, recalling waterway conflicts, admitting her have difficulty and declaring none shall die further now. Faust faces hostile rider who taunts him as weak while intense pressure builds and hostile atmosphere surrounds the battlefield suddenly. Faust rapidly blocks incoming blow and responds to with precise movement, knocking opponent backward while maintaining calm focus during combat encounter. Caroline reaches at Willendorf frontier requesting refuge while armored guards evaluate her presence and identity under strict territorial inspection protocol. Boundary Sentinels of Willendorf officially announce power, recognizing Caroline's request while maintaining disciplined formation and observing surrounding travelers cautiously watchfully. Soldiers question Faust and comrades about journey, standing determining whether they arrived alone or supported by external forces. Security assessment continues carefully. Faust submits reports account calmly to boundary leadership, demonstrating strategic awareness while guards analyze information credibility under structured military evaluation protocols applied. Frontier soldiers relax following reviewing Faust information, shifting from tension to laughter as credibility becomes confirmed and accepted. Collective relief spreads quickly. Power challenges Faust about supply hopes and territorial acceptance, emphasizing strict border requirements for entry and support formal negotiation procedure enforced systematically. Caroline acknowledges Faust's recognition under Moonglow, mentioning former river conflict and confirming continued survival and mutual recognition. Shared battlefield history reaffirmed quietly. Adela von Ackermann states role as boundary leader, evaluating Faust contributions while asserting control over Willendorf security operations. Command authority reinforced firmly. Faust challenges ruler Polidoro while proclaiming will holding weapon firmly as tension rises before confrontation under moonlit battlefield night scene. Polidoro's soldiers ridicule Faust, but he ruins steady, observing their movements while preparing counterattack strategy against overwhelming enemy numbers carefully. Faust interviews battlefront motives while analyzing hostile commander, noting strategic weaknesses and preparing decisive response amid growing tension among troops. Caroline thinks on lost lands as Faust reviews state, recognizing strategic disadvantage while remaining determined to continue advancing forward steadily. Hostile officer mocks Faust, challenging his resolve while Faust silently endures pressure, recalling homeland and refusing defeat despite overwhelming odds. Faust listens to opposing commanders' taunt, analyzing tone and aim while keeping calm during psychological pressure of ongoing confrontation situation. Faust announces commitment to continue combat, rejecting surrender while recalling comrades and reaffirming purpose amid collapsing battlefield conditions. Ongoing struggle. Troops and people call forcefully, urging Faust forward as crowd energy intensifies, turning battlefield into emotional collective struggle. Shared momentum. Caroline confronts resistance troops, calmly claiming self and challenging judgment while maintaining confidence despite surrounding hostility and pressure. Unwavering stance. Faust stands beneath night light, stating assignment, keeps rejecting defeat while preparing final resolve for upcoming decisive confrontation. Future battles ahead. Faust fights with hostile officer as blade strike is intercepted and tension rises during decisive battlefield confrontation under night sky pressure. Faust is hit and pressured while opposing units defeat him, but he remains focused, evaluating opponent's strength and movement pattern carefully. Faust announces self, boldly proclaiming name and status, his ground while confronting opponent directly in escalating duel without hesitation present. Opposing leader challenges Faust, asking about aim and motivation while Faust listens calmly, analyzing psychological intent behind opponent words during confrontation. Faust absorbs hostile challenge while recalling private resolve and refusing to yield despite disadvantage and overwhelming battlefield conditions surrounding him. Faust states resolve to continue fight, declining to abandon assignment while recalling comrades and reaffirming purpose under extreme pressure situation. Faust splinters hostile expectation by persisting opposition, demonstrating unexpected endurance while battlefield debris scatters from impact and violent exchange ongoing. Faust and foe exchange fast weapon fights, creating shockwaves as combat intensifies and both fighters test each other limits aggressively. Hostile answers in surprise as Faust parries assault, cleanly shifting momentum of battle while maintaining disciplined stance and controlled movement. Faust ends once past conflict, still resisting while foe gets ready next strike, indicating unresolved duel and ongoing decisive confrontation continuing forward. Faust faces adversary recognizing honor while analyzing hostile stance under tense battlefield atmosphere with determination growing. Despite visible injuries present, Faust states role forcefully introducing his identity as Polidoro while confronting Caroline in formal challenge under heightened battlefield tension scene now. Faust listens to Caroline challenging his motives while battlefront strain shifts into strategic dialogue between commanders under night sky pressure. Caroline confronts Faust, challenging his determination and aim while inner stress builds, forcing him to reconsider survival and mission direction. Faust stands injured, grinning through hurt, rejecting defeat as blood flows while reaffirming battle spirit against overwhelming enemy forces now. On an under moonlight warfield, a hurt warrior laughed softly while chaos spread across the devastated frontier after intense fighting there, and wounded noblewoman taunted the very large blade, questioning its usefulness while examining the defeated warrior with amused confidence expression. Fading Faust upheld his family's prized weapon Clarif, eyeing its legacy while enduring pain and refusing disrespect toward ancestral heritage. Seriously enduring, she smiled weakly, apologized earnestly, and embraced her destiny while reflecting on efforts made in pursuit of ambition. Quietly resigned, the soldier questioned life, asking about meaning of sacri, if and wondering if all ambition led inevitably toward emptiness and despair thereafter. Faust stood over battlefront remains, speaking of triumph and thinking about Martina while confirming his attack against enemy commander Polidoro. As a mother, she regretted her inability to guard her girl, feeling powerless while watching events unfold painfully and without words under a clear moon. The fighter knelt solo, readying a final tribute while reflecting on past battles and losses. Quietly, youth recollections showed her reading volumes, silently unable to fully understand texts, yet inspired by stories and imagination endlessly growing. The vast court capital archive stood massive, standing for knowledge and opportunities the girl once dreamed of reaching someday. Beyond reach, springtime came throughout the border, where Faust observed the quiet fields while reflecting that Martina's birthday was approaching soon within uncertain peace. He stood within fighters recuperating from combat, hearing distant laughter, realizing the kingdom celebrated survival, despite lingering wounds and exhaustion everywhere present. Faust inspected his broken weapon, recalling its household heritage while ignoring ridicule from nobles who questioned its practicality after brutal combat. He remembered Martina, the girl left behind, and felt commitment grow as he embraced accountability for protecting the frontier realm. The Warfield account reported Polidoro's loss, yet Faust felt no satisfaction, only concern for lives lost during the engagement. Martina's parent appeared in his feelings, mourning quietly while Faust acknowledged the emotional weight of leadership after victory. Nighttime fell over the border as Faust knelt, giving honor to fallen enemies and allies beneath the vast moonlight sky. Residents gathered nearby, rejoicing endurance, yet Faust remained detached, focusing on unresolved threats and political instability spreading beyond borders. He witnessed youthful remaining troops, tearful, and realized the price of war shaped every generation within this harsh world continuously. Faust finally stood solo beneath stars, hauling service onward while remembering Martina's birthday and the fragile peace he protected. Springtime came throughout the border, where Faust observed the quiet fields while reflecting that Martina's birthday was approaching soon within uncertain peace. He stood within fighters recuperating from combat, hearing distant laughter, realizing the kingdom celebrated survival, despite lingering wounds and exhaustion everywhere present. Faust inspected his broken weapon, recalling its household heritage while ignoring ridicule from nobles who questioned its practicality after brutal combat. He remembered Martina, the girl left behind, and felt commitment grow as he embraced accountability for protecting the frontier realm. The Warfield account reported Polidoro's loss, yet Faust felt no satisfaction, only concern for lives lost during the engagement. Martina's parent appeared in his feelings, mourning quietly while Faust acknowledged the emotional weight of leadership after victory. Nighttime fell over the border as Faust knelt, giving honor to fallen enemies and allies beneath the vast moonlight sky. Residents gathered nearby, rejoicing endurance, yet Faust remained detached, focusing on unresolved threats and political instability spreading beyond borders. He witnessed youthful remaining troops tearful and realized the price of war shaped every generation within this harsh world continuously. Faust finally stood solo beneath stars, hauling service onward while remembering Martina's birthday and the fragile peace he protected. Nonce passed the fight. Remaining troops meet on the field as Faust and others observe the aftermath while deciding their remaining responsibilities calmly and firmly. Fighters and residents begin rejoicing carefully, but Faust and his allies understand that danger still exists and emotional wounds remain unhealed deeply. The unit moves through the warfield discussing held enemies and save efforts while Faust remains focused on urgent priorities beyond celebration. Valliere organizes missions, ordering teams to handle wounded fighters and scheme the retrieval of captured individuals under strict time pressure conditions. Leadership rulings continue as command selects squads for rescue missions while acknowledging the exhaustion and limited resources affecting all forces involved. Faust moves onward requesting accountability for a hazardous assignment, showing determination despite injuries while others react with concern and hesitation. Valliere reviews the state closely, managing strategy and emotional strain while continuing to direct troops toward the abandoned village objective ahead. The forces readies to move, acknowledging that those alive must be saved while acknowledging the cost of the recent brutal conflict. Faust thinks on absence and obligation, agreement that even victory carries grief, while committing to prevent further unnecessary deaths. The party advances together into the next phase of missions, united in direction, with unsettled tension remaining beneath their determined march forward. Once past the war finished, the remaining units gathered as discussions continued about returning home and rebuilding, with Faust observing the group's shifting morale. Helga and others shouted lightly to the circumstance, while Faust was directed to stay with the group as they prepared for departure and regrouping. Amid light cheering and pressure, troops tested the mood, but underlying fatigue remained as everyone struggled to balance relief and loss. Lady Valliere evaluated accounts of losses and personal strain, while acknowledging that the victory still carried heavy consequences for all involved. Soldiers discussed whether the assignment could truly be called an achievement, as Faust reflected on how survival itself had become the standard outcome. Helga and comrades discussed benefits and coming chances, while some focused on personal ambitions, ignoring the deeper cost of the battle. Faust remained detached, thinking about command duty and the remaining instability, recognizing that the war's effects were far from over. Valliere challenged the truth of losses, feeling the weight of control while still pushing the forces toward discipline and continued movement. Although facing fatigue, troops renewed unity and prepared for the next phase, promising to support each other as they moved forward together. The party finally began imagining a arrival to the capital, sharing positive thoughts of peace and normal life, though uncertainty still lingered. Faust is unconscious, amid ruins in forest clearing once past fight, leaves rustling quietly as distant danger still lingers around nearby. An unseen attacker strikes through the leaves, blades stabbing as blood spills, revealing the abrupt continuation of hostile pursuit again. Faust returns to consciousness, puzzled, noticing travel nearby while struggling to rise, realizing enemies or allies may still approach silently immediately. Faust woke wounded, wrapped eye, uncertain in forest, remembering flight from Astarta while sensing Polidoro still pursuing him nearby now. Faust closely repositions bandage, checks his advantage, steadies breathing, regaining awareness after battle, silently assessing his condition and surroundings calmly. Lady Caroline wraps fabric around Faust, helping him gently describing endurance. He realizes symbolism of Valhalla and situation afterward clearly. Faust looks pleased lightly, thinks on death, accepts absence of right side eye, considers survival outcome with unusual calm acceptance inside peace. Blades collide as Faust and companions fight and halt troops, enduring harsh battle while accepting fate and necessity of conflict together. In coach, Faust encounters hurt soldiers and new allies, forming bonds, sharing purpose, remembering promise to protect Lady Caroline future. Faust rests in inn with comrades, recalling pledge to share drink in Valhalla, feeling connection despite separation, still enduring bond. Me allies back Lady Caroline even in Willendorf, trusting her command while Faust thinks on shared responsibility mutual protection vow. Ill advance forward, enjoying Valhalla ale, confident comrades will support Lady Caroline and secure mission success ahead without hesitation fully. Ill go ahead tasting Valhalla's fine beverage initial, agreeing to destiny, while preparing comrades' future support mission continuation calm resolved end. Faust considers on Lady Caroline while receiving his scars, feeling loyalty and resolve as he faces the aftermath of battle and fate. A warfield covered with dead troops shows the weighty cost of conflict, As survivors stand amid rain and devastation in silence, Faust realizes Polidoro's brutality and demeanor of cruelty, shattering emotionally while understanding how harsh the war and enemy truly are. Faust checks the dead enemy's features, puzzled about his own survival and questioning what kind of Valhalla he has entered. Faust observes the result of massacre, challenging his worth as a survivor while realizing others fought and died around him. He recollects Lady Caroline and the ruined Bozellands, sorrowing silently while accepting that he may be the only survivor left. Hostile deception is identified as Polidoro manipulates others, while Faust wrestles with isolation and the burden of promises made. Faust realizes he must attain Valhalla, remembering his promise with companions while following alone toward his uncertain destiny ahead. Friendly, additional troops reach, urging out to Faust, offering help and reassurance after the chaos of battle and emotional exhaustion. Warriors meet around him, confirming back his came, while Faust stands between survival and duty, ready to continue forward. Faust, wounded and weary, considers on Lady Caroline, expressing loyalty while receiving fate after brutal battle and overwhelming emotional exhaustion. Regal warriors discuss separating search in heavy rain, fearing Duke Astarta taking credit while urgency forces immediate coordinated action forward. Helga interviews Faust's motives, while others debate Polidoro's brutality. Commander orders scattering as tensions rise under heavy strategic pressure within. Faust discovers concealed children in cover, confirming save while soldiers secure area and survivors react with relief and exhaustion. Finally, court warriors survey battlefront result, acknowledging strongest warriors' terrifying power while reflecting on heavy losses and responsibility and reign silently. Leader shows remorse over hazards taken, insisting responsibility is hers alone, while others suffer consequences of ongoing conflict decisions quietly. Faust considers on timidity and endurance overcome by responsibility, believing he is unworthy while questioning his first battle experience deeply. Faust hardens determination, resolving to attain Valhalla, remembering promise made with comrades while stepping forward through rain-soaked battlefield alone quietly. Friendly warriors reach, urging out, offering rescue and reassurance as they locate survivors in chaotic battlefield aftermath under rain falling. Woman-led leader thinks on battlefront burden, acknowledging responsibility for wounded allies while accepting her role in ongoing kingdom conflict silently. Princess Valley saves trapped children while asserting service. Faust and Astarte continue combat. She hides in her frailty and loneliness silently. Helga discusses Faust hero ideals during rainfall, debating command, worthiness, royal sentinels' loyalty, while others question heroic expectations intensely together. Officer decides steps in downpour, swears accountability, offers drink after victory, despite poverty valuing comradeship over reward without hesitation now. Warriors walk through rainfall, mocking each other about wet clothes, acting tough, while embarrassment grows between companions. Playful banter continues. Soldier-soaked rejects being wet while companions tease confusion. Rain continues heavily, tension breaks into light humor moment, shared relief. Valley-sama maintains she is not wet while rank in weighty rainfall, showing stubborn pride as others worry about her health and try to protect her. Hana is called out by Valley-sama, who persists denying she is wet, while comrades suggest seizing refuge, revealing playful concern in the group. In a wood building, riders and children mix warmly as soldiers relax, helping survivors recover while maintaining vigilance after rescue operations. A injured body rests in the downpour as Faust and another soldier examine the result, confirming casualties and reacting to sudden shock and urgency. Valley-sama walks through a settlement in rainfall, while children are escorted to security, troops coordinating relief efforts across the devastated area. Valley-sama protects children during combat while Faust and Astarte continue combat Polidoro troops as disorder spreads across region, determined to continue forward despite uncertainty. Helga asks heroic ideals and command as riders argue Faust's role and worthiness under imperial expectations in heavy rain, questioning honor under heavy pressure. Officer accepts accountability, promising prize and camaraderie following battle, while valuing comradeship over payment in harsh battlefield conditions, valuing comrades over payment. Warriors move through rainfall, mocking each other while maintaining morale despite exhaustion and wet armor during ongoing mission, maintaining morale despite fatigue. Fighters deny embarrassment in downpour, arguing teasingly while continuing search operations and protecting children from ongoing danger and confusion, supporting children amid crisis. Valley-sama maintains she is saving children while denying vulnerability as allies worry about her state during rescue, efforts showing resolve during rescue. Within refuge, warriors and residents coordinate care for wounded children and prepare safety measures after chaotic evacuation, ensuring safety after evacuation. Faust discovers hurt remaining troops and corpses in rainfall, seeing missing carriage driver and confirming heavy battlefield losses, across battlefield. Riders argue moral outlook, suggesting acting as if rewards never happened, while civilians observe confusion about ongoing conflict situation, questioning morality of conflict. Unknown mounted fighter shows up at once during rainfall, identified as leftover enemy, causing shock among knights and immediate defensive reaction, immediate battle response. Hostile troops begin abrupt attack during heavy rain as alarm spreads. Knights prepare to defend village under chaotic conditions immediately. Leader searches warfield while opposing escapes, turmoil rising as visibility drops in rain and panic spreads among soldiers quickly. Faust engages hostile soldier, blocking attack while assessing circumstance, recognizing opponent uses ruthless tactics and coordinated ambush strategy during storm. Faust states determination for Lady Caroline and Bosel, charging ahead with weapon drawn, determined to change battlefield outcome through strength. Strong collide between fighters erupts. Faust wrestles versus skilled opponent while rain intensifies, reducing visibility and increasing danger significantly. Opposing combatant counters passionately. Faust is compelled back, yet maintains stance, refusing to fall while protecting mission and allies. Combat intensifies as multiple fighters collide. Faust swings counterstrike, shattering enemy momentum and creating opening amid storm-soaked terrain. Faust is hit but returns to Wei, noticing opposing weakness, preparing decisive move while recalling promise made to comrades and Lady Caroline. Friendly shouts call for organization as additional troops approach battlefield. Tension rises while both sides prepare final confrontation under rain. Faust subdues foe in closing exchange, rank amid storm as enemy collapses, signaling shift in battle direction and survival hope. Abrupt hostile assault erupts during downpour. Soldiers panic, remaining foe survives. Chaos spreads. Urgent orders given. Rescue mission intensifies battlefield. Woman-led warrior keeps battle alone in rain, searching enemies, noticing ambush signs. Tension rises. Wounded civilians nearby. Urgency increases rapidly. Fighter fights blades strongly, deflecting strikes, sustaining injuries, yet preserves resolve. Battlefield soaked. Opponent pressures heavily. Struggle intensifies. Exhaustion continues. Faust rushes ahead, stating determination for comrades, pushing through rain, determined to protect allies, confronting enemy leader with unwavering conviction. Combat intensifies as enemies counterstrike. Faust attacked but regains balance. Analyzes weakness. Prepares counterstrike amid storm chaos and bloodshed ongoing. Foe presses advantage without pause. Faust blocks desperately. Rainfall reduces view. Tension rises, both fighters exhausted, neither yielding ground during duel. Faust parries quickly, shattering hostile momentum. Weapon clashes echo. Battlefield mud splashes. Strategic opening appears. Allies begin advancing forward now. Faust, hurt yet concentrated, locates vulnerability. Recalls promise, commits decisive strike, rain intensifies, enemy falters under pressure, moment critical turning, friendly, additional troops reach. Organization begins. Battlefield shifts, enemy forces destabilized, hope returns, commanders issue orders. Momentum changes toward victory secured. Closing, opposing drops beaten. Faust stands victorious in rain, battlefield silent, mission outcome secured, survivors regroup. Tension finally dissipates, ending. Abrupt assault-style attack unfolds in disorder as enemies attempt to kill their target, but Faust's allies react instantly to protect key figures in the rain-soaked battlefield. The attacker is held mid-attack, while strain spikes, as Faust and allies realize the stables contain hidden danger tied to the ongoing conflict. Faust intercepts the hostile at close range, locking blades and wrestling intensely, blocking the attacker from extending the vulnerable target amid confusion and urgency. The women led opposing fights desperately while Faust responds to her strikes, both exchanging fatal blows as he refuses to back down, despite overwhelming pressure. Faust builds greater control in close battle, disarming and controlling the opponent, while maintaining focus on protecting Lady Caroline's safety. The opposing is restrained and beaten, but refuses yield, continuing to resist as Faust delivers decisive control to end the immediate threat. Faust stands over the lost adversary, proclaiming alertness for Bosel's honor. While enemies begin collapsing around the battlefield as resistance weakens, he expresses regret for unplanned killing while fighting mentally, showing hesitation and remorse, despite necessity of survival in brutal conditions. The result uncovers multiple corpses and drained fighters as Faust insists he never intended harm, burdened by consequences of combat. Faust stands in rainfall between dead enemies, mentally shaken but resolute. acknowledging responsibility while comrades secure the area and survivors are protected. Faust questions a imprisoned hostile while recognizing identity is unclear in chaos. Suspecting Polidoro's forces behind brutal killings, Faust becomes mentally alone, believing he is fully by himself while chaos continues at the destroyed village and battlefield. Riders debate and reject to accept failure, insisting the battle continues while tension rises between leadership and uncertainty in command. Valley-sama states complete resolve to fight, getting ready to risk everything, showing determination despite overwhelming danger and exhaustion. Riders coordinate but absent supplies, crossbows ready yet bolts nearly depleted, forcing desperate decisions in ongoing siege conditions. Faust is physically held and hurt while enemies overpower him, but he ruins aware as situation worsens rapidly around him. Hostile authority heightens as Faust is attacked and pinned, while opposing force asserts control and threatens execution during battle. Faust's allies express regret and have difficulty mentally realizing the mission is collapsing, while expressing loyalty and desperation under pressure. Imprisoned and wounded enemies are questioned, revealing uncertainty about authority and identity. While Faust remains uncertain about command structure, Faust thinks on his initial real fight history, acknowledging unknown enemies, unstable command, and the harsh reality of war. Valliere identifies herself as second Princess of Anhalt, revealing self while Faust and others observe the result of current conflict and shifting political stakes. Gignard is questioned about role and background while confusion keeps. Confusion rises as multiple parties try to understand each other's roles in the battlefield situation. Gignard clarifies his former involvement, describing destruction of his hamlet and personal trauma from battle, while others listen and evaluate his intentions carefully. Valliere thinks on initial fight terror and responsibility, admitting inexperience while still committing to duty and continuing forward despite emotional strain. Riders question devotion and self as tensions climb, while Valliere declares commitment to return to Bosel and restore honor for her people. Faust confronts Gignard, encouraging reserve while asking about living an emotional burden, trying to prevent further unnecessary suffering during ongoing conflict. Valliere asks about native land devotion, probing personal links while Gignard confirms love for his land, revealing deeper motivations behind his actions. Faust and Valliere talk about vows and earlier connections, clarifying that Bosel conflict and personal loyalties are driving current decisions and tension. Gignard voices personal clash between service and loyalty, showing hesitation and inner struggle while interacting with Valliere during interrogation. Closing reflection shows motivated determination as Faust acknowledges bonds with comrades, separating personal loyalty from political conflict while preparing for next phase. Valliere confronts Gignard during deadlock, claiming authority while Faust watches tension rising between conflicting loyalties under heavy emotional battlefield pressure. Faust faces final choice as Valliere challenges Gignard growing fight, while both sides ready for decisive confrontation under harsh conditions reign. Riders encircle prisoners as questioning intensifies with Helga restrained, while accusations and strategic pressure mount across unstable battlefield aftermath scene. Valliere asserts manage over Helga, stating power, while troops hesitate and crossbows ready, tension peaking during hostage standoff situation now. Faust controls adversary amid heated exchange, challenging directs as comrades shout confusion while battlefield pressure escalates under heavy rainstorm. Valliere examines Gignard about home allegiance, probing inner ties while Faust monitors situation and tension rises between factions now quickly. Gignard uncovers inner clash and reluctance, confessing love for homeland while facing pressure from Valliere and surrounding Knight's present moment. Faust states parting between obligation and allegiance, emphasizing promise to comrades while confronting political and personal conflict in current war. Valliere and Faust exchange serious dialogue, recognizing burdens of war while unsettled coalitions shape uncertain battlefield future. Moving forward now, closing confrontation concludes with weary soldiers' aftermath, revealing consequences of choices made under relentless battlefield pressure and rain now silent. Imprisoned fighter taunted while bound commander confronts dying opponent. Tension rising as brutal battlefield judgment unfolds under harsh emotional exchange scene. Beaten soldier brings closing words while captor holds back hostage, declaring execution route as emotional farewell and bitter resolve persists scene aftermath. Riders meet around serious deadlock as armored princess asserts control. Surrounded allies prepare weapons while uncertainty hangs over battlefield situation now. Princess drops down amid rainfall wet warfield, reflecting on responsibility while injured soldier nearby symbolizes cost of conflict and leadership burden felt deeply. Valliere stands collected in attack wind, cloak flowing dramatically as she readies to act decisively amid lingering battlefield silence. Tension grows. Helga held by troops while companions plead for mercy. Emotional conflict surfaces as authority figures decide her fate carefully now. Crossbows trained at captive as officer warns of execution. Chaotic shouting erupts while desperate negotiation attempts fail under extreme pressure situation ongoing. Aunt's past fight. Troops regroup while discussing benefits and losses, as Princess observes survivors and tensions ease. Following intense confrontation, finally calm. Valier confronts Ginyard about devotion and native land, challenging his will while emotional dialogue reveals shared pain and unresolved conflict between them. Princess Valier states role and aim amid warfield aftermath, asserting leadership while winds carry echoes of battle across landscape far beyond. Severely injured rider shouts while battlefront chaos erupts, blood splattering as enemies advance relentlessly under dark stormy skies overhead now unfolding. Leader controls held foe while issuing final warning as soldiers hesitate. Tension rising amid rain-soaked battlefield confrontation, escalating quickly now. Armored fighters encircle junior fighters as fierce struggle unfolds. Weapons drawn, fear and determination mixing under heavy rain battlefield clash intensifies. Heroic princess stands amid attack, stating role with self-belief while cape flows dramatically. And destiny seems revealed before her now clearly. Fierce fight unfolds between riders as blades collide violently. Blood sprays and commitment pushes fighters beyond exhaustion and limits continuing relentlessly. Held soldier fights helplessly while captor sets grip, threatening death as allies shout desperately across chaotic battlefield scene, emotional pressure rising. Injured fighter crouches drained as comrades attempt rescue, emotional tension rising while rain continues pouring over devastated battlefield, grim aftermath unfolding. Defiant commander addresses opposing units, although facing injuries, proclaiming resolve while standing surrounded by fallen allies and ongoing destruction. Unbroken spirit persists. Last attack domain crushing blow as combat reaches climax. Warriors collapse while determination and fury define final moment. Battle concludes violently. Youthful youngster Hannah holds a small note closely, sitting quietly. Inside modest wooden house, feeling uncertain about surroundings, today begins. Girl Hannah rests solo rehearsing simple tasks inside house, learning discipline, while light enters through wooden window. Morning routine continues. Household gathers expressing regret that they hoped for a masculine heir, placing expectations on Hannah's birth within noble household tradition pressure. Junior Hannah stands under attention, remembered as fourth child of country night family, isolated from siblings and expectations defined early. Mealtimes always had one less portion while family enjoyed complete table. Hannah eating separately, feeling ignored and unwanted isolation. I fought with her utmost. I had practiced intensely, pushing junior body beyond limits while copying observed combat techniques. Self-driven. Youthful Hannah looks for place, striving for approval within family while sisters despise her and emotional distance grows at home silently. Following fierce wrestles, Hannah displays innate combat knack, overpowering siblings during rough play and proving unexpected physical strength, emerging power. Non's past fight. Hannah stands between family and peers, observing changing dynamics within household relationships and growing awareness. Internal transformation begins. Lady Hannah is sent for by her parents' status ahead of stone walls, awaiting instruction that will change her path. Future begins. Around age 14, Hannah was initially officially noticed by her mother's vassal, marking a shift in her status within the household structure. Hannah was appointed to the court watch of the second princess, an assignment framed as honor, though it stemmed from political manipulation by her family. Hannah realized that her sisters had arranged her posting. She received the truth internally while treating the situation as a duty rather than a reward. She began journeying as en garde, going through country regions and supply routes, gradually leaving behind the household where she had been rejected. She passed through guarded checkpoints and commerce routes, observing groups of travelers while continuing her assigned duties with minimal support or recognition. Hannah moved through a town hallway, observing packed roads and social activity that contrasted with her isolated upbringing and restricted past environment. She reached the court halls, getting ready for assignment involving a young princess. She evaluated risks while maintaining composure under responsibility. She reflected on former struggles, recalling how dread of frailty shaped her decisions. She resolved to avoid returning to earlier vulnerability. Hannah faced her recollections of youth shame and determined to maintain strength, rejecting any path that would lead back to exclusion. A older figure escorted a smaller girl onward while Hannah observed the scene, signaling her new role in protecting nobility and adapting to duty. At 14, for initial time, mother's vassal called Hannah by name, signaling recognition and alter in her life ahead. Quietly, She was appointed to court watch of second princess, considered major honor though, actually result of political manipulation within court. She realized sister's compelled role, agreeing to truth quietly while treating situation as duty rather than personal reward without resistance shown. Hannah began travel departing noble family, journeying toward frontier as escort knight under retainer guidance for royal service duty assigned. She passed through checkpoints along commerce course, observing vendors and travelers while continuing assigned mission carefully without asking questions alone. Hannah walked through packed city roads seeing unfamiliar life, contrasting with separated childhood in noble estate. Quiet observation continued here. She entered court halls getting ready for assignment involving youthful princess evaluating risks while maintaining strict composure under royal pressure present. She reflected on former dread and frailty-shaped choices, refusing to return to earlier vulnerability, again mentally strengthening resolve. Firmly, Hannah recalled youth shame and bullying, resolving to never indicate vulnerability or be controlled again, determined strong survival instinct formed. She joined practice with other noble spares, recognizing mutual destiny among group, beginning disciplined night path, new beginning together now. During regal protection entry recitation, Hannah notices none recruits can recite required response. Captain. Sole exception remains calm, clearly observed. Captain Sabine announces recruits picked by her princess, speaking assuredly while Hannah watches, intimidated by commanding presence and authority felt. Hannah fights during pledge recitation, forgetting learned lines, panicking internally while recruits around her remain confident and composed state observed. Officer Sabine teasingly assesses recruits, patting Hannah's head, causing embarrassment while maintaining strict supervision over training environment present throughout session ongoing. Hannah participates in bodily drills exercises such as rope scaling and endurance drills, while observing others struggle under supervision closely watched. Hannah observes other recruits teasing weaker members during party practice, realizing harsh social hierarchy within Royal Guard environment structure present. Hannah faces severe practice fight hearing versus Captain Sabine, testing reflexes, strength, and adaptation under pressure from elite warrior training scenario. Hannah and recruits listen to rigid control address, emphasizing devotion, duty, and obedience toward princess during royal service initiation ritual. Hannah stands between different recruits, feeling anxiety yet resolve building as unit undergoes bonding process for Royal Guard formation trial. Captain addresses recruits, harshly condemning conduct while Hannah answers stunned, realizing severity of discipline within Royal Guard training system established. During drills entry, recruits have difficulty to join commands while a strict captain evaluates discipline, emphasizing obedience and control within the Royal Guard system. Sabine, a forceful officer, announces recruits picked by the princess and begins intense evaluation, while Hannah feels overwhelmed by authority and pressure. Hannah becomes alarmed during official recitation, unable to remember instructions properly, feeling terror of failure as other recruits perform confidently. Sabine corrects recruits and supervises practice closely, while Hannah backgrounds awkwardness but starts adapting to strict expectations under observation. Bodily drills deepens as recruits perform stamina and strength exercises. Hannah pushing through exhaustion while learning survival standards of the Royal Guard. Recruits display rough conduct towards weaker members, revealing private hierarchy and social pressure, while Hannah observes and processes the environment. Sabine commands practice fight sessions, compelling Hannah into direct clash that tests reflexes, courage, and adaptation under elite combat pressure. Rigid directs about devotion and support to the princess are delivered, shaping recruits into disciplined guards bound by duty and hierarchy. Hannah opens forming connections with other recruits, noting common struggles, and beginning emotional adaptation to new life within Royal Guard unit. Severe self-control persists during practice result, leaving Hannah shaken but increasingly resilient as she continues progressing through Royal Guard formation system. Sabine harshly orders recruits to take penalty position, testing obedience while Hannah observes strict discipline and authority pressure rising. Sabine reinforces court watch ranking, saying recruits are chosen by princess while Hannah struggles to maintain composure under scrutiny. Hannah forgets learned recitation inside, overwhelmed by anxiety as she realizes others perform better within structured royal expectations environment. Sabine persists correction while evaluating Hannah closely, noting reluctance yet letting her to continue within training group despite weakness. Intensive bodily exercises haul recruits through fatigue. Hannah enduring pain while adapting to harsh combat standards required by guard. Recruits display bullying conduct towards weaker members, exposing harsh ranking inside unit while Hannah silently analyzes social dynamics forming. Sabine units direct practice fight, testing Hannah's responses and courage under stress, while elite combat environment shapes her resilience. Rigid devotion address reinforces service to princess, conditioning recruits into disciplined structure, while Hannah internalizes responsibility and control system. Hannah slowly connections with recruits, dividing hardship histories while developing sense of belonging within Royal Guard training environment group. Practice persists continuously, Hannah shaken yet tougher, advancing through Royal Guard formation while adapting fully to new demanding life. Cheering erupts once past fight success while commander announces success against enemy faction, yet Hannah senses emotional instability among recruits present. Disorder follows as recruits believe Hannah is lost sorrow, spreading rapidly, while fear overwhelms group within training aftermath scene area. Sabine scolds tearful recruits enforcing order once past emotional breakdown during training, emphasizing control and strict expectations within Royal Guard system. Hannah splinters down while comrades relieve her, expressing thanks and emotional support after shared hardships within Royal Guard unit bond. Unit mourns together as recruits grieve dead comrade Hannah, while inner connections strengthen through shared suffering and survival experience formed. Hannah receives heartfelt thanks from comrades, embracing her tightly, while personal reunion and mutual appreciation develop among recruits present here. Closing decision unites Hannah and allies as they ready to come back home together after intense shared experiences concluded finally now. Helga withstood weariness within Borderland camp, surrounded by burning torches, injured body trembling while soldiers moved around the battlefield aftermath. Helga sat by himself cleaning bandage and caring for wounds, carefully cleaning herself while recovering from harsh battle conditions in quiet tent. Helga brushed her hair slowly, examining herself calmly, revealing weariness fading while she regained composure after battlefield survival ordeal period. Helga stood at the camp at dawn, observing peaceful lowlands over battlefield ruins, reflecting on survival and upcoming responsibilities ahead quietly. Borderland ruler Faust appeared nearing damaged camp, assessing scattered forces and exhausted soldiers, acknowledging disorganized state of entire operation area. Faust spoke with Helga at camp entrance, discussing deaths and restoration arrangements while keeping calm leadership over frontier situation matters. Helga shouted strongly as Faust assisted her with mantle positioning, revealing tension between authority and personal boundaries during recovery process. Helga and Faust discussed next actions while fatigue remained noticeable, resolving whether troops could rest or continue mission objectives ahead. Junior fighters gathered expressing worry about losses, while leaders considered losses and began planning memorials for fallen comrades carefully organized. Faust reviewed continuing border state, confirming assignment continuation despite hardships, as forces prepared to depart Polidoro with unresolved objectives remaining. Helga reported battlefront result to Faust, confirming task victory, stating no casualties occurred during chaotic frontier operation recovery phase period. Troops gathered crying once past learning results, while Faust remained silent. Helga acknowledged losses mentally, despite reported success message received calmly. Faust lowered eyes shortly, processing result, receiving responsibility quietly, stating understanding of situation before returning to command mindset again fully. Princess welcomed Faust back in border base, observing his state closely while maintaining formal authority over recovered battlefield forces calmly. Stable hands cleaned Princess Mount Flogfagel, while Helga inspected equipment, noting mending and preparedness for upcoming patrol deployment duties carefully. Helga questioned role of incoming units, considering Duca Start involvement, while analyzing likely threats along frontier border region carefully quickly. Fighters warned Faust can't advance onward as reinforcements approach rapidly, urging defensive readiness and immediate strategic withdrawal planning now urgently. I am privileged you came. Faust addressed Duca Start officially while strain lingered over unresolved frontier political negotiations. Present situation. Fighters stopped ruler Faust's path, insisting he can't advance, while emergency situation escalates among gathered frontline command units right now. Opposing conference ended. Noblewoman Duca Starte declared state finished, leaving Faust, reflecting on abrupt end of conflict campaign immediate aftermath. Duca Start properly accounts uprising circumstance resolved, stating Princess Valerie is safe, while Faust observes political aftermath calmly and silently, processing outcome. Faust receives thanks but refuses credit. Helga responds uncomfortably while tensions remain between duty and informal battlefield relationships within command structure. Helga performs service cleansing procedure, insisting conduct are not harassment, while Faust grows visibly uncomfortable with misunderstandings between personal space and obligation. Helga rejects owed favor issues, saying friendship while maintaining assertive control over situation. Faust becomes increasingly embarrassed by social misinterpretation of interactions. Duke Istart discusses proper affairs, while Helga criticizes Faust's standing and power. Tension rises among nobles regarding reputation and authority disputes. Helga argues forcefully with fellow troops about doing jobs correctly, causing chaotic disagreement within camp as morale and discipline weaken temporarily. Helga encourages Faust personally, saying self-belief in herself and form a relationship with him while trying to reduce conflict between subordinates. Faust ruins silent as Helga keeps speaking, emphasizing small size of problem, while others judge situation harshly and question leadership choices. Camp onlookers criticize Faust plainly, Helga remnants protective, while conflict spreads among troops regarding responsibility and loyalty concerns. Faust withstands group verdict silently as accusations continue, reflecting burden of leadership and strained trust among allies in frontier command structure. Duke Astarte discusses reparation from Borsal, while Faust is notified of Princess Valerie's refuge and health after the operation. Helga responds to pressure as Astarte gets ready to leave. Faust ruins focused while emotional strain grows among commanders and allies. Helga rejects wrongdoing while managing Faust, causing embarrassment and confusion as boundaries blur between duty and personal familiarity. Helga maintains moves are not abuse while Faust fights with embarrassment, observing unclear intentions within chaotic interpersonal interactions. Helga is criticized by others as she persists interacting with Faust, creating clash over respect, devotion, and battlefront reputation. Quarrels break out between troops as Helga dominates conversation, while others complain about disorder and lack of proper discipline in camp. Helga encourages Faust again, revealing private assurance while others question relationships and motives behind her behavior toward him. Faust is compared with others as troops argue fairness and command, tensions mounting about authority and treatment of allies. Helga grows suspicious of Faust's conduct, feeling something atypical while observing changes in his attitude and choices recently. Narrative shifts to reflection on Faust's command selections, suggesting concealed court complications and possible secret agreements affecting domain stability. Faust and lords debate reparation from Borsal while mistrust grows about secret deals involving second princess influencing political outcome quietly. Helga asks Warfield duty as troops debate second-order decisions and chip boss influence on pursuit strategy justification outcome here. Helga considers on Valerie Hunt reasons, challenging sacrifices made for soldiers, and whether second princess involvement justified actions taken now. Valerie encounters Astarte plainly opening strained introduction, while both observe each other cautiously during formal encounter within camp setting here. Helga ridicules Valerie's arrival, urging her delayed while pressure rises during confrontation between prideful commanders within frontline camp scene now. Helga and Valerie quarrel intensely over nobility obligations, dismissing monarch talk and boundary politics with growing frustration in heated exchange. Helga stands within fighters claiming authority while rejecting royal expectations, causing confusion about hierarchy and authority roles within camp structure. Helga thinks on place with sentinels remarking happiness, despite mockery recalling life shared with comrades in village and frontier life. Helga thinks of Hamlet life and calm days ahead of war, feeling conflicted about current noble duties and battlefield responsibility deeply now. Helga finally recollects the settlement once more, seeing her true feelings about peace comrades and uncertain future, ahead now end scene. Astarte announces Valerie no longer reserve raising inheritance concerns among nobles, observing her growing influence and recognition immediately now rising. Valerie asks aristocrats duty while others discuss chip boss pushing pursuit, causing confusion about orders and accountability among soldiers now. Valerie considers on efforts and reasons behind combat choices, questioning whether second order justified losses and suffering endured involved here. Valerie encounters Astarte plainly strained exchange opens as both assess each other cautiously during formal encounter within camp setting. Now, Helga ridicules Valerie for arriving delayed, worsening strain between commanders during heated confrontation at camp as emotions intensify further. Now, Helga and Valerie quarrel over obligation and nobility while troops react faulting leadership, and growing camp disorder unrest spreads now. Helga stands within fighters claiming authority while rejecting royal expectations, causing confusion about hierarchy and authority roles within camp structure. Helga thinks on place with sentinels remarking happiness, despite mockery recalling life shared with comrades in village and frontier life. Helga thinks of Hamlet life and calm days ahead of war, feeling conflicted about current noble duties and battlefield responsibility deeply now. Helga finally recollects the settlement once more, seeing her true feelings about peace comrades and uncertain future ahead, now end scene. Valerie was declared no longer reserve as lords acknowledged her growing influence and potential to disrupt established succession order completely. Now troops discuss duty for Chase questioning Chip Boss influence, while confusion spread over orders and accountability across fractured command structure. Valerie reflected on efforts made during combat challenging whether second system decisions justified suffering and losses endured throughout campaign here. Valerie met Astarte plainly, both observing each other warily, during official encounter throughout camp, tension rising between them immediately. Now, Helga taunted Valerie for arriving delayed, worsening strain between commanders during heated confrontation at camp as emotions intensified sharply now. Helga and Valerie argued over obligation and nobility, while troops responded faulting leadership as camp disorder and unrest spread now. Helga reassured Faust while claiming authority, causing turmoil within soldiers, questioning authority and relationships within tense camp environment right now. Helga reflected on place with sentinels, remembering joy and common moments from village life before war changed everything completely. Now Helga recalled Hamlet's former life, feeling conflicted between service and calm as memories shaped her resolve and present state. Now, Helga committed to guarding second structure home, although facing uncertainty, reflecting on sacrifices and uncertain future ahead of her now here. Valerie confesses she was once afraid of Astarte, believing she was hated for failing court roles previously, but now feels composed. Valerie states she requires nothing, except guarding those girls, seeing true treasures during first battle, embracing noble duty and pride. Now Valerie persists, speaking with restored commitment, reflecting on accountability and future path ahead after battle conclusion and emotional clarity now forward. Valerie stands looking calm under drifting flower petals, feeling renewed, embracing duty, looking toward future leadership with confidence and renewed purpose today onward.